The heavens rumbled with a fading thunder, the sound of the whirlwind retreating into the unseen realm, leaving behind a silence so profound it felt heavy on shoulders. Elisha stood alone in the swirling dust, his eyes fixed on the empty sky where his master had just been taken, his heart pounding with a mixture of grief and terrifying awe. At his feet lay the rough, heavy mantle of Elijah, the symbol of a burden and a power that now belonged solely to him. He remembered his own bold request, the words echoing in his mind, "Please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me." Slowly, with trembling hands, Elisha bent down and grasped the mantle, the rough fabric scratching his skin, sealing his destiny as the prophet of Israel. He returned to the banks of the Jordan, struck the water as his master had, and walked across on dry ground, his face set like flint toward a future of miracles. The men of Jericho, seeing him return alone, yet carrying an undeniable aura of authority, approached him with a mixture of respect and desperation. Please notice, the city elders said, gesturing to the lush palms that surrounded their city. The situation of this city is pleasant, as my Lord sees. But the water is bad. They confessed, their voices dropping to a whisper of shame, and the ground is barren, bringing death instead of life. Elisha looked at the streams that should have brought life, but instead brought miscarriage and sickness. And he knew God's power was needed immediately to establish his office. "Bring me a new bowl," he commanded, his voice steady, and put salt in it. They scrambled to obey, bringing him a pristine vessel filled with salt, watching with bated breath as he walked to the spring of the waters. He cast the salt into the bubbling source, not as a magic trick, but as a prophetic act of purification. "Thus says the Lord, I have healed this water. From it there shall be no more death or barrenness," he proclaimed over the gurgling spring. The murky water seemed to clear instantly, rushing forth with a new vitality, healed to this day according to the word Elisha spoke. From Jericho, he began the steep ascent toward Bethel, a journey that would test the respect of a nation for their new prophet. As he walked the dusty road, a gang of youths from the city, products of a culture that had mocked God for generations, came out to harass him. They surrounded him, jeering and pointing, shouting, "Go up, you bald head! Go up, you bald head!" mocking both his appearance and the ascension of his master Elijah. Elisha turned, his eyes flashing with a terrifying divine anger, seeing not just childish pranks, but a deep-seated rebellion against the Lord. He pronounced a curse on them in the name of the Lord, and the woods nearby cracked with the sound of breaking timber. Two female bears, driven by a supernatural fury, burst from the tree line and mauled 42 of the mockers, a grim reminder that God's prophet was not to be trifled with. Years passed, and the fame of Elisha grew, but so did the suffering of the faithful in a land that had largely turned its back on God. A weeping woman, the widow of one of the sons of the prophets, threw herself at Elisha's feet, her face stained with tears and dust. "Your servant, my husband, is dead," she cried out, her voice breaking with panic. "And you know that your servant feared the Lord." "But the creditor is coming," she gasped, clutching at his robe. "He is coming to take my 2 sons to be his slaves to pay the debt." Elisha looked at her with compassion, his mind racing for a solution that would provide not just for today, but for her future. "What shall I do for you?" he asked gently.
"What can I do?"
She lowered her head, ashamed of her poverty. A smile touched Elisha's lips as he saw the seed of a miracle. "Empty vessels," he emphasized. "Do not gather just a few. Get as many as you can carry. When you have come in, you shall shut the door behind you and your sons, and then pour it into all those vessels and set aside the full ones." The woman ran home, desperation fueling her steps, and sent her son scrambling through the neighborhood to beg for jars, pots, and bowls. Inside their small hut, with the door shut against the world and the creditors, she lifted her single, small jar of oil. She tipped it over the first large clay pot, and the golden liquid flowed, filling the pot to the brim. Yet her small jar remained heavy. "Bring me another," she cried to her sons, her eyes widening in wonder as the oil continued to pour like a river. Pot after pot was filled, the entire room glowing with the scent of rich olive oil, a fortune accumulating on her dirt floor. "Bring me another vessel," she commanded, breathless with the labor of the miracle. "There is not another vessel," her son replied, looking around the room crowded with brimming jars. The moment the last vessel was full, the oil ceased flowing, the divine supply perfectly matching her faith and capacity. She ran to the man of God, her face radiant with relief. Elisha's travels took him often to Shunem, where a wealthy and notable woman began to show him great kindness. She persuaded him to eat, and eventually, recognizing the holiness radiating from him, she convinced her husband to build a small upper room for the prophet. It was a sanctuary of peace, furnished with a bed, a table, a chair, and a lampstand, a place where Elisha could rest his weary head. Grateful for her hospitality, Elisha sat in the room one day and asked his servant Gehazi, called the Shunammite woman. When she stood respectfully before him, Elisha asked what could be done for her, offering to speak to the king or the commander of the army. "I dwell among my own people," she replied with quiet dignity, content with her life and needing no political favors. But Gehazi, observant and shrewd, whispered to his master, "Actually, she has no son, and her husband is old." Elisha felt the stir of prophecy within him and called her back to the doorway. "About this time next year," he promised, locking eyes with her, "you shall embrace a son." Her face crumpled with a mixture of hope and fear. But the word of the Lord is sure, and the woman conceived and bore a son at the appointed time, bringing joy to a silent house. The child grew strong, running through the fields, until one fateful morning during the harvest. He stood among the reapers and suddenly clutched his forehead, screaming, "My head, my head!" His father, busy with the work, ordered a servant carry him to his mother. The boy sat on his mother's lap, his breathing shallow and ragged, until noon, when his small body went limp and he died. With a heart turned to stone by grief, she carried his lifeless body up to the upper room and laid him on the bed of the man of God. She shut the door on death and went out with a singular, fierce purpose. "Send me one of the young men and a donkey," she told her husband, "that I may run to the man of God and come back." She drove the servant hard, saying, "Go forward. Do not slacken the pace for me unless I tell you," racing toward Mount Carmel. Elisha saw her coming from afar, her figure distinct against the horizon, and sent Gehazi to greet her. "Is it well with you? Is it well with the child?" Gehazi asked, but she brushed past him with a breathless, "It is well," saving her truth for the prophet. She reached Elisha and fell to the ground, grabbing his feet in desperation, a mother fighting for her child's life. Gehazi moved to push her away, but Elisha stopped him, seeing the raw pain in her eyes. "Did I ask a son of my Lord?" she cried out, her voice cracking. Elisha understood instantly. Death had stolen the gift. He sent Gehazi ahead with his staff, commanding him to lay it on the boy's face. But the mother refused to leave Elisha's side. "As the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, I will not leave you," she vowed. And so Elisha arose and followed her. Gehazi tried the staff, But there was no sound, no hearing, no life. The boy remained cold. Elisha arrived, entered the room of death, and shut the door, leaving the weeping mother outside. He prayed to the Lord, then lay upon the child, putting his mouth to his mouth, his eyes to his eyes, and his hands to his hands. He stretched himself out, pouring his warmth and faith into the cold vessel, and the flesh of the child began to warm. Elisha paced the room, wrestling in prayer, and stretched himself out again. Suddenly, the silence was broken. The child sneezed 7 times, expelling death, and opened his eyes. Elisha called the mother, and when she saw her son alive, she fell at the prophet's feet in overwhelming gratitude before picking up her boy. But the miracles did not end there, for famine plagued the land, and the sons of the prophets looked to Elisha for sustenance. A large pot of stew was boiling, but a well-meaning student had gathered wild gourds from a vine he did not know and sliced them into the pot. As the men began to eat, they spat it out, clutching their throats and crying, "Man of God, there is death in the pot." Unfazed, Elisha called for flour, cast it into the bubbling stew, and commanded, "Serve it to the people." They ate, and the poison was gone, neutralized by the power of God, working through simple means. "Give it to the people that they may eat," Elisha ordered. His servant scoffed, "What? Shall I set this before 100 men?" "Give it to the people," Elisha insisted, "for thus says the Lord, they shall eat and have some left over." And just as spoken, the bread multiplied, satisfying their hunger with baskets remaining. Far to the north, in a hostile land of Syria, lived Naaman, a commander of the army, a great and honorable man, a mighty man of valor. But beneath his polished armor and fine robes, his skin was rotting with leprosy, a secret shame that no military victory could cure. A young girl, a captive from Israel who served Naaman's wife, spoke with a boldness born of faith. "If only my master were with the prophet who is in Samaria," she whispered, "for he would heal him of his leprosy." Desperate for hope, Naaman took this word to the king of Syria, who sent him to the king of Israel with a letter and a fortune in gold and silver. The king of Israel read the letter and tore his clothes in panic, crying, "Am I God, to kill and make alive?" fearing a trap for war. When Elisha heard of the king's distress, he sent a message, "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel." Naaman arrived with his horses and chariots, a magnificent procession stopping at the humble door of Elisha's house. Expecting a grand reception, Naaman was insulted when a messenger simply came out and said, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and you shall be clean." Naaman flew into a rage, his pride wounded. "Are not the rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel?" he shouted, turning his chariot around in fury. But his servants, wiser in that moment than their master, reasoned with him gently. "My father, if the prophet had told you to do something great, would you not have done it? How much more then, when he says, 'Wash and be clean'?" Humbled, Naaman went down to the muddy Jordan River and dipped himself once, twice, 3 times. By the 7th time, he rose from the water, and his skin was not just healed. It was restored like the flesh of a little child. Overwhelmed with gratitude, he returned to Elisha, declaring, "Indeed, now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel." He tried to press gold and silver upon Elisha, but the prophet refused, saying, "As the Lord lives, I will receive nothing." Elisha wanted Naaman to know that God's grace could not be bought, but Gehazi, standing in the shadows, had a heart filled with greed. As Naaman departed, Gehazi thought, "My master has spared this Syrian. I will run after him and take something." He chased down the chariot,
Welcome, Gehazi.
and when Naaman
Is
saw
all
him,
well?
the commander stepped down to meet
I
him.
ran quickly.
Lying through his
Indeed,
teeth,
two of the prophet's
Gehazi
disciples
said,
just arrived,
"My
needing
master
silver
has
and
sent
garments
me,
urgently.
saying
The master
2
sent
young
me to
prophets
ask for
have
them."
just arrived.
Indeed.
Please give them a
Two of the
talent of
prophet's
silver
disciples just
and
arrived,
2
needing
changes of
silver and
garments.
garments urgently.
Naaman, generous and grateful, gave him double what he asked, and Gehazi stashed the loot in his house before returning to Elisha. "Where did you go, Gehazi?" Elisha asked, his eyes seeing through the walls and lies. "Your servant did not go anywhere,"
No, master, I
Gehazi
haven't been
replied
anywhere.
smoothly. Elisha's voice
not go
dropped,
with you.
heavy with judgment.
The leprosy.
"Is it time to receive
accept
money and
and
clothing?"
garments?
Elisha
The
asked,
greed in your heart
exposing the
has been
corruption
exposed.
of his servant's heart. "Therefore the leprosy of
leprosy
Naaman shall cling to you and your descendants forever." And Gehazi went out from his presence leprous, his skin as white as snow, a tragic end to a life that had been so close to the holy fire. Elisha's life continued to be marked by wonders, from an axe head floating on water to chariots of fire guarding the hills. Even in death, his bones held such power that a dead man, thrown into his grave, revived and stood on his feet. Thus, the double portion of the Spirit rested upon him, proving to all generations that the God of Israel is the Lord of life and death.